We're talking about Jodi Arias. We're just gonna like jump right in. Jodi Arias. We did 2 episodes on her so far. It's a big case. I'm gonna be doing a lot of skipping around. Everybody does know the case already, so I don't want to I don't want to hear the comments about I already know this case. We're revisiting it because it is the most epic prosecution team I've ever seen in my life. Juan Martinez is just the most incredible prosecutor ever. And
I know you said.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see him.
Yeah, he's incredible. So real quick, I'll just show you guys another picture of Juan. That's not him. There he is.
I was going to say, who's that?
Yeah, that's Mimi. We're going to talk about Mimi Hall a lot today.
Okay.
But anyway, let's get right back into it because we in the second episode we played most of his prosecution's opening statement, and he's very clear and concise, and he tells a really good story. And he's just amazing. He really is. Before I start, though, just want to some more facts I found. Born in Mexico, immigrated to the U.S. as a child. He grew up very poor, did not speak English initially, and he's never been married, and there's no known children at all.
Wow.
Which says a lot because we talked about the fact that he's gotten himself into some trouble with women. Right. In the workplace, with bloggers that were following the Jodi Arias case, and also with a juror that, not nice for him.
A juror that was dismissed.
Right.
So.
Yeah, she was dismissed, and then she ended up complaining that they had inappropriate text messages with each other. So, I guess he's a perv. I guess he's a perv.
She was just not interested in him.
Yeah, but so is a lot of other women that were in the workplace that were complaining, this guy won't stop groping me and touching me and all that, which is not good. True. But, and I'm not giving him a pass here, but, it doesn't change the fact that he is like the OG prosecutor that I've ever seen. So, anyway, he's always avoided social media and media attention outside of the court. He lives a quiet, private life in Arizona. A little bit about his personality. He's routine-driven, detail-oriented, and reclusive. He prefers to work alone. He's obsessed with criminal psychology and body language. He disliked the fame and the media circus he received around the time of the Arias trial. But in the courtroom, known for his aggressive, fast-paced cross-examinations, my notes here. But here's interesting. He has a near photographic memory of all the testimony in this case and probably other cases he's done.
Right.
He revisited the crime scene multiple times, like almost countless times, to build a strong emotional connection to what happened to Travis, and he would have a strong narrative. And then lastly,
taking your work seriously, but he didn't really have any other downtime.
Yeah, he was like married to his work.
To his work. Yeah,
married
which is probably why he never really did find anybody. So
yeah, and he had like a fierce drive to go after this girl. I mean, he couldn't stand Jodi. He really couldn't. Just, another tidbit. I don't know if you knew this. I don't know if I mentioned it before, but he wrote a book in 2016 after the trial called Conviction. It offers an insider look at the prosecution, focuses on the evidence, trial strategy, and Arias's manipulation. And it was praised by supporters of Travis Alexander and criticized as biased and self-promotional. So that's just a little bit about him. So anyway, we've got about 15, 20 minutes left of his opening statement. So we're going to go right into that and finish that out. Just so you know, at the point we're at, he had just finished talking about the fact that she went down to a rental place about 90 minutes south of Wairika, which is where she lives in California. And he makes the point that there was no reason to go an hour and a
90
half
minutes, yeah.
south to go get a rental car when there were rental car places in Wairika.
Or
Also,
plenty of them in between.
right. Yeah, absolutely. And in between. And then also, he talked about the fact that the budget rental guy had said that when the police were obviously on to Jodi, they went to the budget rental place, identified that she was the one who rented the car, and he showed a picture of her, and he said, yeah, that's definitely her, but she was blonde. So
Right.
that's kind of where we're at. So I'm just going to start right from there, and let's roll. Here we go.
Able to do is rent a car. But again, it was not in her town, and it was in a place that's far away. And the person who rented the car to her, well, he was shown a photographic lineup. And he said, and asked whether or not he saw the person that he rented the car to. He said, oh yeah, there she is, right there. The defendant. He said, but, the photograph that you're showing me, she's got black hair. When she came to rent the car from me, she was a blonde. So, it's the same girl, I'm sure of that. But her hair color changed. Her hair color changed from June 2nd to June 4th in the afternoon when she was having sex with Mr. Alexander. So we know that from the photograph. And she rented the car.
She's dyeing her hair while she's having sex.
June 6th of 2008. And in fact, she
How's the
returned
plausible?
it on June 7th of 2008. And there was over 2,000 miles on that car. One of the other things that police were able to do is that they were able to find receipts. And they were able to show that the defendant, in fact, and she readily admits this now, that she did take a trip. She took a trip, but she was going to go to Utah, according to her. She was going to go to Utah because she has a love interest there, or somebody that could potentially be a love interest, by the name of Ryan Burns. And she was going to visit him, not only visit him, but she was also going there to maybe do some marketing with PPL on this Thursday afternoon, which would have been the 5th of June. And so they're able to see that she goes to Southern California, stops at places like Starbucks there in the evening, sometime around 9 o'clock in the evening, and giving her plenty of time to be there the next day. So they're able to see that not only does she have the opportunity, she actually is placed near the area of California, which would have been a short is a relative term, drive to Mesa. So when she said to the police back on June 10th of 2008 that she hadn't been there, well, the police knew now that that was not true, because they could trace her movements. Well, the other thing that they were able to find that came out is that...
Mr. Martinez, we're going to take the news at this time.
Okay, thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, please be back in the designated area at 1:30. Please remember
It'll
the
continue.
admonition.
Hold on.
I'm going to ask that you review the
Okay.
admonition. It is in your black binder.
And made her way down to Southern California, and at some point made her way over to Utah. And ostensibly,
Wait, did I
she
just play
indicated
this?
that she was going to Utah to meet up with a friend, somebody
Yes.
that she worked
Okay, hold on.
Yeah, but it was a different,
Okay.
She did.
I'll just
the
leave it
camera was
here.
on something else.
The
Yeah.
Salt Lake City, Utah area on June 5th, June 5th, which was that Thursday. And as she got there, sometime around a little bit before 11 o'clock, Mr. Burns indicated that he had to go to a meeting, and that if she wanted to go with him, that she could follow him in her car, the rental car that she was driving. As they were driving in West Jordan, Utah, an officer with the West Jordan Police Department stopped her in that vehicle. And the reason they stopped her in that car was because there was a problem with her license plate. There are 2 plates that are required in Utah, and in fact there are 2 plates that are provided and required in California. So when the car was rented, there was a front plate and there was also a back plate. Well, the car that she was driving did not have a front plate. So between the time that she rented it and the time that she was stopped, somebody took that plate off. Additionally, the reason that she was stopped is that the plate in the back had been turned upside down. And so the police officer
Yeah.
That's so weird.
stopped the car, and he will come in. His name's Michael Gaglietti, and he will tell you that the person that was driving the car was the defendant. And she provided some story about being at Starbucks, and that somehow some of the kids were trying to play a trick and took the license plate off the car and put one of the license plates inside the car, and then somehow turned the other license plate upside down. Well,
I mean,
Why is that
obviously,
irrelevant?
well, because she probably took the plates off when she got to Arizona so that she could not be traced. And then when she went to put it back on, she's just such a dumb idiot that she put it back on upside down when she was on her way over to Utah. So, yeah, that's what that's about. I mean, that's what I'm getting from it. I mean,
if she's, I don't know. That doesn't
she
make
might
any
have
sense.
had
How do you?
she might have had another set from like somebody in California, and or maybe her parents or a sister or whatever, and maybe took the plate off and then decided, well, she wouldn't do that either because then that would still get back to her. But at some point, she obviously doesn't want to be recognized for the plate that she has on that rental car, so she takes it off. That's what I'm getting from it. And then when she goes to put it back on, she puts it back on upside down, and then talk about drawing attention to yourself, right?
Yeah, how do you not notice you put it on upside down? I don't get it. I can understand putting a shirt on inside out. You know what I mean? But
Well-
mean, you're looking at the plate upside down. That's crazy. That's
She
so
really is
stupid.
not. She really is not the sharpest tool in the shed. I mean, she thinks she's smarter than she is.
Right.
Just when you see her actually take the stand,
Right.
she does come off extremely poised at times, but then little by little you realize that she's kind of dumb.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
she continues on with Mr. Burns, and then at some point the meeting is over. They go back to his place, and what seems to be something with her is that the inevitable happens. They do begin to become engaged amorously. They begin to kiss. They begin to get involved in that sort of fashion. And Mr. Burns will tell you that, yes, they did go further than that. And in fact, he will say that he had his hands between her legs. And he will also say that the reason that they didn't go all the way or continue on to sexual intercourse is because he's Mormon. And his teachings, which I've been telling you about, do not allow for that sort of behavior, if you will.
Okay, I don't usually like to.
oh,
I don't usually like to pause it all too much, but I just want to say a couple things about that. Okay, so we know she killed him because she admits it, and she's got a self-defense strategy going on. So with that in mind, she did kill Travis Alexander under whatever circumstances. I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt. If we didn't know the end result and we wanted to assume that she was doing it in self-defense, how is it that within 2 days you're at another guy's house after you just murdered somebody and you're getting all on them? She was the initiator, and then he's got his hands between your legs. So what does that say to you? That tells me like no empathy, narcissism, like a lack of feeling.
Well, I think she's trying to come up with an alibi. You know what I mean? She came to go see him. You know what I mean? So she kind of has to go through with everything. So maybe that's why.
Yeah, but you don't have to like jump right into like sexual activity with the guy that you barely know. You literally
What-
is like your first date. She met him at a prepaid legal conference once. Then all they did was
Right.
talk on the phone. So
Well, a lot of people find that to be a relationship, talking on the phone often. So it's not really. There might be their second meeting, but maybe they felt more emotion because they speak on the phone more often.
right.
But I just think that she was just trying to, fill in her cover story.
Yeah.
And honestly, like the fact that he's even saying that he went down her pants and that according to a religion, they can only go to third base. That's what he's
Yeah.
saying. Okay.
Yeah. I
And
can't believe
you're
you're
like,
talking.
okay.
I can't believe you're talking about bases right now, like we're in high school. That's hilarious.
Well, he's
Okay.
like, well, because of their religion, they can't go any farther. You're like, okay, third base is their cutoff.
All right, back to the show.
And so it wasn't that the defendant was stopping him, it was that he decided not to go any further than that. And then the police also determined that the car was finally returned on the 7th of June back to the budget rent-a-car in Redding, California. Well, the police, now knowing that there was this trip that was planned, they have the photograph, they now have the DNA, and they also have the fingerprints, arrested the defendant for the first-degree murder of Travis Alexander. And as part of that process of the arrest, the police conducted or spoke with the defendant. And of course, prior to speaking with the defendant, they admonished her of the Miranda warnings and talked to her about what the Miranda warnings were, and she agreed to speak with them, and these are videotaped. And this was on June 15th of 2008, and they arrested her while she was in this home on Pine Street, the home that she lived there with her grandparents, the home where there was this burglary on May 28th of 2008. And when they spoke with her on that June 15th, the defendant said, well, you know, I'll talk to you about it, but I don't, other than what I've already told you, I don't know too much about it. Well, why don't you tell us what you do know? Well, I can tell you that the last time that I was there was back in April of 2008. That's what she told me. And they said, well, are you sure? I mean, we have some photographs of you there. Oh, she said, well, are you sure they weren't taken on a different date? No, we're sure they weren't taken on a different date. Well, I wasn't there. It wasn't me. Well, what about this time lapse? What about this gap where you sort of disappear? You're supposed to be in Utah with this other boyfriend of yours, and yet you can't be found. People are making calls. There are no calls going out, nothing going in. What about that time? I got lost. What ended up happening is that I ended up getting lost, and I got so lost I almost can't tell you where I was. But I do know one thing, she said. I ended up on the 40, the I-40. And the detective said to her, how can that be possible? If you're coming from California and you're going to Salt Lake City, Utah,
right.
How is it possible, since the road goes northeast, the 15 goes northeast, and takes you through Las Vegas that way, why? The only way that you can get on the 40 is if you come through Mesa and then you come up that way. Couldn't have been on the 40. There's no way that you could have. Oh, yes, I was, she said. I can get lost with the best of them. I slept in my car, and my phone, the reason no one was able to get a hold of me was that it wasn't charged up. It has lost its charge. The police kept saying, but that doesn't make any sense. Why would you say that that's what happened? And if you're going to Salt Lake City, how can you say that you actually came through the 40 and then up through Las Vegas that way? She kept to her story and said, no, I was never there on June 4th, 2008. Well, so the police
Liar.
left it at that. The next day, she indicated a willingness to continue talking to the police officers, and that was July 16th. And she was again read her Miranda warnings. And this time, when she spoke to the police officer, she said, I got to tell you something. I really have to tell you something. Maybe what I told you yesterday, well, maybe that's not the truth. What I really have to tell you today is what happened. And what ended up happening is, and I'm just incredibly scared for my family. I'm just totally scared for my brother, my sister, my family, my grandparents, because as a result of this killing, well, the people that really did this killing, they're the ones, these are the people that are out to get my parents. So, although I told you yesterday that I wasn't there, well, I'm telling you now that I was there. And I can tell you what happened. I arrived there sometime around 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning of June 4th.
Here we go.
When I arrived there, Travis was on the computer, and he was watching some sort of YouTube thing about some ladies with something on their head, and it was just a silly video, and we sat and watched it for a little bit. And after watching that for a short period of time, well, we went up to bed. Nothing happened. The next day, in the afternoon, you're right, that is me in those photographs. That's me, and yes, we are engaged in intimacies. We're having sex. The other thing that's also true is that, well, those photographs, 20 that I talked to you about, I was the one that was the photographer. I was the one that was taking those photographs. I was the one that talked him into standing and posing for me. He really didn't want to pose for me. He thought it was just not his cup of tea But, you know, he sort of did it for me. And so I began to take the photographs of him. As I'm taking these photographs of him, I hear this loud noise. And something hits me. And I really can't, I don't know if, I think I went unconscious. I'm not sure I went unconscious, but I think I did. And then I realized that Travis is hurt. I don't know how it happened, but I realized that Travis is hurt. And he's on all fours. And he's saying, help me, or words to that effect. He can't get up. And I'm trying to help him. I'm trying to do the best I can to get him out of there, to get him up so we can leave. That's what I'm doing, she says. I'm trying to do the best that I can. But he can't seem to get up because there's a problem with his legs. He says he can't move. Well, while I'm trying to do this, I realized that, and again, I didn't tell you yesterday because I was afraid, but what is going on is that there's these two individuals. First, she really doesn't know what their sexes are, but comes around and says, it's a man and it's a woman. Not only is it a man and a woman, but all I can see are their eyes. I can tell you, I guess, she said that they're Caucasian. Maybe she can tell you that. But other than that, I don't have any way of identifying who these attackers are. And according to them, it appears that I surprised them, that I shouldn't have been there. Because one of them said words to the effect that, you know, that's that girl from California. I wasn't supposed to be there.
I mean,
these people were designed to
This
take
is her
out Travis for
second
whatever reason
BS story.
they had. And I don't know what that reason
This
is.
is
They were
out
there
of all
to
the
do
trials
him
we've watched, she
harm.
has the
What
worst.
kind-
She has the worst self-defense.
She does, and this is only her second one. I mean, this is not her final story. He's explaining that first she said I wasn't there, I had no part of it. Now she says, okay, I was there. There were two intruders. Okay. So she's gonna finish. So he's gonna finish explaining. But yeah, it's such a stupid, dumb. But I mean,
Yeah,
if
it's
you
not
have to
even.
come up with,
It's, yeah, her. First of all, no lawyer again. I mean, and her story is just so stupid. Like it's not even
it's really
like.
dumb.
Yeah, it's not even a
Yeah.
good one. It's not even a good fake story.
Nope. And now all
Yeah.
the Jodi Arias supporters, and there's not many. I know there's probably one or two on here, but there are
Well,
not many supporters. But the ones that do, it's just she's a pretty face, and they probably write her in jail for all I know. And they're like, swapping letters.
I support her in the sense of I do think that she was mentally abused. Like I do support her in that. I don't think it's right. I don't still think it's okay to take away somebody's life. You know what I mean? But she
Totally.
was abused.
All right. So which brings me to the comment. He meant, Mark says he mentally abused her. Are you saying you can have self-defense from physical abuse, but you can't have self-defense from mental abuse? If my answer to you on that, and Lynn can answer you what she thinks, but no, you can't for mental abuse. You don't kill somebody. When you use violence to defend yourself, it's because you're about to be harmed. Your bodily harm is about to happen to you. That is not the case with mental abuse. You know what I mean? You can go and, I'm not saying that it can't alter your thinking or it can't make you very upset or angry and all those things, but no. And then on top of it, defense is usually get them off me, so I stab them once and then I run. This is overkill. This is like 26, 28 stab wounds, a shot to the head, and a slice from ear to ear. Give me a break. That's not self-defense. I'm sorry. But
No,
anyway, do you
it's
want to
not.
comment on what Mark said?
But no, listen, I think when it comes to mental abuse, it's unfortunate. Mental abuse is harder to defend yourself than physical abuse. Physical abuse, either you just take the punches until they leave, or you cover your head and whatever areas that you can.
Oh, yeah.
But when it comes to mental abuse, it's worse. That's a worse.
It's
abuse
worse
of them
on
all.
the person.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
All right. No, I didn't want anybody to think that I didn't, because I agree with that. That mental abuse
no.
is. harder. It's way harder.
Yes.
It's on the soul. It's on the psyche, and that is totally. I'd rather take a punch than to have my mind all messed up from somebody.
Right.
But
Which
in
I
terms
get
of her,
why. Which I get why she turned to physical abuse, and because the fact that she was mentally abused, her physical, her reaction was physical. That makes sense. Cutting from ear to ear, stabbing him 20 some odd times. That's a lot of energy to do that, and a lot of like, pain from inside. That while she's like, doing that actual forcing, like she's probably thinking, and you are such a liar. Like, she's truly hurt,
Right. Yeah.
So, and then like he wouldn't die. So now she's gonna like pop him in the head because she's like, I hate you.
But she
So,
rented a car. She drove there. I mean,
yes.
there's just so much like. I mean, I'm only willing to say that he wasn't that great to her, and that's as far as I'm willing to go in terms of criticizing Travis Alexander. That's it. He was a jerk to her, but so are a lot of guys, right? How many guys are like, total jerks to women and whatever?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Right.
that doesn't mean he wasn't a nice guy or he wasn't like loving to his family or, but he indulged in a woman that allowed herself to be debased and degraded and used. And
Right.
there's a little bit of what about the fact that she like, come on, I want that. There's got to be some leeway for that as well. I mean, not too many men would turn that down, right?
Right, but I mean, this is probably her way of showing love, and you don't know how she grew up. Maybe that's what she felt like.
Yeah.
That's what she was doing. It was giving him, showing him love and respect by doing what he says, or saying sorry all the time. I made him upset. I'm gonna say sorry. And she constantly was trying to ease his temper, although she would sit there and bait him all the time. So it was like a weird kind of combination. But
Yeah.
I don't know. She should have walked away. Yeah, she definitely should have walked away. But mental abuse is so much harder to walk away from.
It really is. I agree with that.
Yeah.
But millions of people do it every day, right?
That's true.
Hit that sub button, everybody. Like and share our page. We love the thumbs up, so give us some thumbs up. And we're going to get back to this right now so that we can stay on schedule. But here we go.
Okay.
What kind of weapons did they have? Well, she said, I think they had 1 or 2 guns. I'm really not sure. All I know is that I was focused on Travis. I had been hit myself. I didn't know what to do. And so what happened then? Well, Travis kept saying to go to the neighbors for help, but I didn't want to leave him there. And at one point, what I did was that I was able to, and it depends on what point the story is picked up, but I pushed the girl who was there, and I was able to get the better of her, and I was about to run out, get out and go get some help, except that I was then confronted by the guy. And the girl kept saying, well, just do her, and the guy didn't want to do it. But I had the gun straight at my face.
What a
And this
crock
gun was
of
pointed
crap.
at my face, well,
So bad.
pulled the
It is the
trigger.
worst.
And for whatever reason, Providence perhaps, gun didn't go off. But I was very worried still about Travis, and I needed to get him out of there. When the gun didn't go off, well, this guy started looking through my purse. And lo and behold, in my purse, believe it or not, I happen to have my car registration that shows my address, because that's what I carry around. So they knew, they being this guy, knew exactly where I lived. And he said to me, well, if
Who
you
are they?
tell what happened here,
Travis's sister's to the
same
right.
thing's
Her
gonna happen
husband's
to your family.
is in the middle.
So she then
Her-
told the
I don't know who the
detective,
girl
"How would
is
you
on the
expect me
left."
to say anything?" At some point, she also indicates that she is fighting with the woman. She claims that she's barefoot, and that the woman
And she's barefoot.
may have hit her feet, but she was able to hit the woman also. The detective asked, well, what about a knife? Did a knife ever come up? She said, I think the woman was the one that had the knife. And when you were going through all these things, and she says everything happened in the bathroom. When you were going through all these things, what was Travis doing? What was going on with Travis? Well, he was alive. It looks like he was really in a lot of pain. But there wasn't anything I could do because he couldn't get up.
This is
I
mild
tried. I did the best
Juan
I could. I
Martinez.
fought with the girl. I had
Just
the
so you
gun
know.
pointed at me. I mean, they already knew where I lived. Just
I
by
can't even
looking
imagine
at
what the
it, they
detectives
knew
were
my
thinking.
address, and I guess that committed to memory.
Oh, they were
So I
like
was
this.
worried about my
They
family.
loved it.
So there was nothing I could do. So what happened next? Well, I was able to pick up my purse. And the police did not find any articles of clothing there from her. I was able, she said, to pick up my purse, run out of the house, run downstairs, and nobody chased me. And then I was able to get in the car. And I was able to
Isn't that
drive
kind of
away.
funny how the news
Make my
wrote
getaway.
Jody's lie? Like
Yeah.
it's
Why
opening statement,
didn't you
and you're
call
calling
the
her a
police?
liar already.
She was asked.
Yep.
Don't you know? My phone wasn't charged up. That's why I couldn't dial. That's what the problem was. Never called the police from there all the way to Utah. There never was a call. The only call came from Murray Hall on June 9th. That's her version. And after that version, the defendant seemed to want an audience. And she began to go on national television, talk about it. And basically, that was her story, that there had been two other individuals that had done it. And in fact, she went on a show called Inside Edition, which will be exhibit number 247, and she talked to them about this.
I understand that everything, all of the evidence against me right now is very compelling.
What really happened in there?
In a nutshell, two people took Travis's life, two monsters.
You did not shoot Travis.
No, I've never even shot a real gun.
You did not stab him 27 times.
That's heinous.
Or
I've never.
slit his throat from ear to ear.
I can't imagine slitting anyone's throat.
And then I ran out of the house and I drove to Utah and I wanted to have sex with a new guy. I mean, really? Like, really, lady? Do you actually think we're going to believe that?
Even telling this story to the detective, do you really think you don't even need a lawyer to protect yourself just even after this story? Even if you were innocent and there was intruders, don't you think you need a lawyer regardless? It would have been safer just to call a lawyer and say, what happened? Let that person defend you. It's just so... She's so stupid. I just can't.
Yeah, Martinez definitely is like an actor with the memorizing and everything. He knows his case. He knew this case so well, and he was made to try this girl. I mean, they were like, wait when we get to the to when she gets on the stand, because I mean that is it's so good, start to finish. There's not one boring part of it. I'll just have to say.
Okay.
All right, so let me see how much is left of this. You know what? I'm gonna stop it because that's pretty much the story with Juan's opening statement, right? So, the defense. I'll play like 2 minutes of the opening defense. Other than, I mean, the beginning kind of says it all, but I'll just go over. So, Ermi, his last name is Ermi, the guy, and then Jennifer Willmott is the attorney for Arias, okay? And let me just say about her, her quote is basically that Jodi had to make a choice and she would either live or die that day. And the story gets changed to that it was simply just self-defense and that she did do it. So she changes it over. So that whole cockamamie story we just heard was total BS. She claimed that Travis attacked her after she dropped his brand new camera. She said she feared for her life and acted in self-defense. Okay, and then so that's that.
So she switched her story to self-defense.
Self-defense, saying that he was in the shower. She's going to say he was in the shower and I was taking pictures of him and it was with his new camera that if you remember from episode 2, he talked
Right,
about the
right,
fact that she helped him buy a brand new camera.
right.
And she dropped it and he called her a bunch of names and degraded her. And yeah.
See, if she had called the lawyer before she called the police officer
Mm-hmm.
and to tell her her new story,
Yeah.
the lawyer would have been like, no, we're not going with that story. We're gonna go with this story.
Yeah, we'll go with the third one. Yeah, I mean, it is so bad. And, and after they were uncovered what happened with Brian Burns in Utah, that just makes her look worse, and then the
Oh
license
God.
plate's upside down. And, oh, it's just really bad. Yeah. All right, I want to get to Mimi, but first I'm going to play a little bit of the opening of the defense, just so you can hear a little of them, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Jodi Arias killed Travis Alexander.
We know.
There is no question about it. The $1 million question is what would have forced her to do it. And throughout this trial, you will hear that Jodi was indeed forced. In just under 2 minutes, we go from the last picture taken of Travis in the shower, in just under 2 minutes, to the picture of Travis's body. You can see the foot in the front with his head and his shoulders, and blood clearly on his shoulders. In just those 2 minutes, Jodi had to make a choice. She would either live or she would die. Jodi did not always tell the truth about what happened that night. She was scared. Scared about what had happened and scared about what she had done. She had absolutely no experience with police interrogation before. And so when they talked to her, she wasn't always truthful. Her fear and her panic about what had happened led her to tell different stories. But you will learn that what she said, those stories, were not the truth. Throughout this trial, you will learn more about Jodi Arias, much more about Jodi. You will find that she is an articulate, bright young woman who is a very talented artist and photographer. But most of all, what you'll learn is that Jodi loved Travis. And so what would have forced her to have to take Travis's life on that awful day? In order to answer that question, we have to go back to the beginning. Back to just before she and Travis first met. Now, Travis and Jodi met in September of 2006.
That's all I'm going to play that. But I'm going to listen for there's people that might say, "Oh, well, you're not playing both sides." So let me just say, she's going to say that she was verbally degraded
Abused.
as a woman, and he does, and I'm going to show that when I play the calls later on in the trial. I just didn't want to waste too much time. I wanted to really just start with the trial. But I felt like Juan at least gives you a good idea of the story. But yes, they're going to say that she was verbally abused and he, played with her head and made her think that there was a possibility for them and all that stuff. So I just don't want anybody to think that I'm not playing a side. But other than that, it is a pretty boring opening, and it's long and
Yeah.
it's dragged out, and there's really not much else to see other than that. And anything that you do need to see is in the trial later. So I will get to it, I promise.
I'm fine with that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna play every witness, but one of the biggest witnesses, she starts right off the bat, is Mimi Hall. Now Mimi Hall, she was the woman that Travis was very interested in right at the time that he died. So
She was supposed to go on the vacation with him, right?
Right. So she was a friend of Travis's first. They met through the Mormon church. They went on two dates actually, but they ended up remaining friends because she didn't see that there was a spark between them, which was actually pretty. She's very mature and was very
Right.
responsible about it. She was upfront with him, and she claims that he was totally cool about it. That he was understanding and he was never violent, never yelled, never called her names. And then still, even with that in mind, he invited her on a Cancun trip scheduled for June 10th, which was the day after he's found. And she had become concerned and basically was there with friends on the day that he was found. So
Right.
that's a little bit about Mimi. And we'll just go ahead and start playing that here.
May I have your name, please?
Marie Hall.
And drawing your attention back to June of 2008, did you happen to know an individual by the name of Travis Alexander?
Yes, I did.
And how did you meet him?
I met him through church,
What church was that?
the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It was at a singles ward.
Are they also known as Mormons?
Yes,
And how long have you been practicing Mormon?
my whole life.
And how was it that you met him? You said you met him through church, but explain to me how it was that you met him.
I gave a talk in the church service on a Sunday, and he came up to me afterward and commented on how well I did.
When was that approximately?
Approximately January or February of 2008.
And after he had that conversation with you, did you continue to see him?
Yes.
How often would you see him?
He asked me out a couple of times. I think we went on 3 dates. And
I know that, but I mean, did he ask you out immediately, or did he, that first time that he met you then, or how did that progress?
I would see him every Sunday at church, and then we had weekly activities. And so he probably asked me out a couple of weeks after he commented on my talk.
These activities that you're talking about with the church, what were they?
They were church single adult activities, so we would either, there was a family home evening, so every Monday we would meet for a spiritual thought and just a socializing time, and then we would have service activities or just fun activities.
Let me ask you about the singles activities. You said that, were those on any given date, or was that any time, or how did those work?
The activities were usually weekly. The most consistent ones that we would have would be Monday night for a family home evening, we called it.
That's also known as FHE, correct?
Yes.
And the family home evening, what time does that start?
7:30,
And what time does it normally end?
about 8:30.
About what time?
8:30.
And during this time of family home evening, it implies that, by the word family, that your whole family is there. I thought that you told me or said something about singles ward or something. Are they the same thing, or is it something different, or what's going on?
So, growing up in a family, the church set aside a time for families to meet, to have a little gathering at home where they share a spiritual thought. But in the singles ward, they just have, there's obviously no families in the singles ward. It's just single adults from the age of 18 to 31. They will meet every Monday as if they were a big family. And
So, as I understand it, what you're saying, though, even though you're calling it a family home evening, what you're telling me is if you're in the singles ward, it's just a bunch of singles.
yeah, it's a meet and greet type of thing.
And what was the ages involved here?
18 to 31.
And what happens to a single who hasn't married after the age of 31?
They go to a family ward. Typically, they go to a family ward. So, like me, I'm 33. I'm in a family ward now.
What does that mean?
Well, people who are married, people who are single.
What? What'd you say?
It means, I guess, according to Mormons, it's too old to date. I mean, really? 31? That's so
Well, you have to
young.
be in a certain group. Yeah, I don't know if I think she could be dating somebody now, but she still has to go to those single meetings. You know what I mean? But then
Yeah,
you
because
graduate to an older age group. Yeah, so
Right.
yeah,
But
basically you're the lost
probably
soul.
yeah, You've been shelved, okay?
Yeah.
Kind of like, I guess maybe because they don't really want 30-year-old dating an 18-year-old, because the range was pretty, I mean, how about 18 to 25 and then 25 to 35 or something
Right.
like that, you know?
Can I just say something else too? Okay, so Mark says he dumped Jodi for her. I knew he was stupid. Like, really? First of all, she's adorable. And secondly, like, I'm convinced that there's some people on here. All right, you know how there's women, like with Wade Wilson, they're like obsessed with Wade Wilson and they would call him
Right.
and give him the money on the kiosk and all that. Well,
Yeah.
I think there's
Yeah.
like Jodi lovers on here, and it's simply because she's a pretty face and you think she's hot, but she murdered somebody. I mean, there is no.
I mean, there's Jodi sympathizers. I don't know about if anybody thinks
Yeah, but
that
sympathy for what? She slashed his. She disintegrated
sympathy
him. I mean,
for being mentally abused.
okay, but there's a lot of people out there that are suffering with mental abuse from men, and
Right.
they don't slash somebody from ear to ear and stab them 27 times and then take a gun and shoot him in the head. That's all I'm saying. There's no excuse for that. You know, and it takes a certain
Well,
kind of person to be that violent and that
I mean,
crazy.
nobody's giving her an excuse, but you could still feel sorry for somebody that, you know, that she felt that we feel that she's been driven to do it. So she felt driven to do it. You know, like she was just
Okay.
totally abused. So
If you took away the murder, let's say the murder didn't happen, I would feel so sorry for her and I would help her out.
Right.
And
Right.
you know, I would try to get her help. But then once she went and did this, I have no sympathy for her anymore. I mean, she has to answer to God. You know, she's gonna have to, you know, meet her maker one day. And that, but I mean, I think that there's like some you know, some Jodi fans, like men
Yeah, I mean,
that are like
it's still mental abuse. I mean, that's like saying you get raped and then like 2 years later you find your rapist and you go and you kill him. Like, is it justifiable?
Yeah. Well, no, it's not. It's not.
Yeah,
Courtney
it's
Clenny.
not okay.
Yeah, Courtney
And I'm not saying
Clenny.
it's justified. I'm not saying it's justifiable for her, but I'm just saying that everybody, you know, there's a reason why people pick sides, and it's not
Yeah.
wrong for them to sympathize with her in the
Yeah.
sense of being mentally abused.
Yeah. Someone's mentioned Courtney Clenny. Like she was.
Who's she?
She's this girl that killed her boyfriend. She was
Another
an
one.
OnlyFans model that basically, you know, yeah. I mean, I know why you like Courtney Clenny. I mean, I'll have to show you a picture, Jocelyn, of Courtney
Okay.
Clenny. I mean, she don't look like that anymore. She don't look like that anymore. And let me tell you something else. She was all makeup and plastic and all that. I mean, you peel that all away, and that's what you're seeing now when she comes into the her trial will be right around the corner. We'll cover it. But right now, I mean, you ever see these women defendants, you know, they looked great, right? And then all of a sudden the dye job is like down to here at the ends, and you know, there's no makeup anymore, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden they look like a regular human being. They look like everybody
Yeah.
else now,
I
right?
know.
They're not so
I
phony
know.
and fake with filters all over them. So
And by the way, I think that this woman on the stand looks very like her character and her face looks very like Jodi. Like he had a look that he was looking for. They look very similar.
yeah, I think she's way cuter than Jodi personally. I just think
Yeah,
she's cuter,
but
and I think she's intelligent, which would make her more attractive, I would think, to a
Right.
man, that she carries herself as well as she does. Jodi's just like dumb, has a dumb look on her face, and you know, and she's a murderer. I have a hard time having sympathy for her because she's because of what she did. It was just so over the top. But
Right.
all right, let's get back to Mimi.
You know, just everyone goes to the same ward. If you're a single adult over 31, you would go to a family ward now, unless you have an older single ward in your area of where you live.
What do the activities that are in the single wards, do they differ from the family ward post 31?
Yes.
How so?
Well, you're not going out. The family ward doesn't meet together every Monday night for family home meeting. That's just done individually on a family by family basis. Sometimes you'll have big activities with the ward where you might go to a lake and have a barbecue, but usually that's done with single adults. and then both a single adult ward and a family ward will do service projects.
Well, let me ask you about the single ward activity. In describing it, it just seems to me that that's more of a social kind of approach to things with religion mixed in. Would that be fair or not?
Yeah, that's fair.
And what kind of social activities does those in the single ward, what do they engage in?
Okay. We would go to, maybe we would go ice skating all together, or we would go to a lake or have a barbecue, or we would go to someone's house, and typically there's a spiritual thought, maybe a scripture read, and someone's personal experience with that, and that's usually like 10 minutes, and then we just have fun. And for a singles ward, it's an area for people to meet each other, get to know each other, possibly make a connection where they start dating and eventually get married.
These singles wards that we're talking about, is there one singles ward for Mesa, a singles ward for Tempe, or what are the geographical lines, if you will, for a singles ward?
Yeah, so they're broken up geographically, usually for convenience sake, so that you have one close in your neighborhood that you can go to. I don't know, like, how they determine the boundaries as far as
I think
he's
setting this up just because you asked why. Because that's how he met Jodi, like how him and Jodi were involved around this singles ward as well. So that's why he's doing that.
Single adult stakes. So
Let me ask you about the single ward that you were in back in 2008. Did that have like a name or a geographical name?
Yeah.
What was it called? Hold on, I have to ask a question. You can't take over this stuff. What was that?
the name of our ward was Desert Ridge Ward at the time, and then it was changed to Indigo Bay.
But it was Desert Ridge back then,
Yes.
correct?
Mhm.
Is that yes?
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
And with regard to that ward that you were in, how many singles would you say was in there?
Several hundred.
How many?
Several hundred.
And would they all meet at the same time on Mondays for the family home evenings, or is it something that?
Yeah, sometimes we would meet in smaller groups, but for the most part, we would all meet together. Not everyone would show up every Monday, so you're looking at a group of maybe 50 to 100 people showing up every Monday.
And
that's a lot.
Would there be a situation where people from your single board, the Desert Ridge, would they, for example, associate with members from another single board?
Yeah, you could do that.
Were you familiar with the university singles board or not?
Yes.
And how far away, geographically speaking, was the one of the university from yours?
You mean mile-wise, or like just time?
Yeah, sure.
It would probably 10 miles, 5 to 10 miles away.
5, 10 miles away?
Yeah.
And as to which ward you belong, is that determined by a place of residence, or is that a choice that is made by the person who's going to be in the singles ward?
It's set up to be by a place of residence. So if you live, Travis and I lived in the same neighborhood, and so we went to the same singles ward.
You mentioned that he complimented some sort of presentation that you made. Was that presentation made as part of the singles ward family home evening, or was that made as part of your presentation of something else?
That was, he commented on a talk that he gave during our sacrament meeting, which is on Sunday.
So that's not the same as the singles ward meeting and all that stuff, right? That's church, right?
Right, that's church.
And that was on a Sunday.
That was on a Sunday, yes.
And he came up to you after one of those talks, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And after that is when he asked you sometime after that, right?
Yeah.
And was it at this singles meetings that he asked you, or how did that come about? If you remember.
I don't remember if he called me or if he asked me at one of the meetings. I don't remember.
And did you agree to go out with him?
Yes.
And describe for me the date. Did he come to your house? Did he take you somewhere? Why don't you just tell me a little bit about the date?
I believe we went to dinner and we went to Barnes and Noble, a bookstore, and had some hot chocolate.
And about what time did the date start?
Probably about 7:30.
And about what time did it end?
About 10:30.
So it's a total of 3 hours, right?
Yeah.
And during that time, did you develop any feelings for him? Were there any sparks there? Tell me about how you felt during this date.
I thought he was a really nice guy, but I didn't have any sparks.
And did you let him know about that?
I just by the first date, no.
Yes, the first date, that's what we're talking about.
I just kind of, just by the way you act with someone when you're not quite as interested in them. So.
And during that date, did Mr. Alexander say anything sexually inappropriate to you at all?
No.
And anytime during that date, did he kiss you?
No.
Did he try to kiss you when he dropped you off?
No.
And at any time, did he reach out to hold your hand or do anything like that?
No. At the most, he gave me a hug goodnight, like an awkward hug.
Awkward.
How did you leave the date? Did you guys agree that you were going to go out again, or what happened?
Just typical where, I had a great time. Thank you very much. We should go out sometime. Okay, sure. That kind of thing. But shortly after I started.
But you didn't really want to go out, right?
No.
Okay. After that, did you start seeing somebody else?
Yes.
And
Pick your nose. Pick your nose.
about when was that you started to see
Bad time.
Within a matter of like a week or two, it was I had gone out with probably the other individual once before, and so we started going out more often.
Okay. And was this person also on the singles board or no?
He was in a singles ward, but not in our singles ward. I
Right.
met him through another friend.
But he was also Mormon, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
How long did you continue to see this other individual?
Just a couple of weeks.
So after a couple of weeks, you and this other individual broke up again, I guess, or stopped seeing each other, right?
That's correct.
And after that, as it applies to Mr. Alexander, did you approach him or did he approach you?
He approached me.
And any idea of the date, more or less, when it was?
I would say it was in mid-February, March, maybe.
And during that time that he approached you, whether it's mid-February or mid-March, what happened? Did he ask you out or what happened? Tell me what happened.
Yes, he asked me out and we went on another date. We went and...
Do you know whether or not he knew about this other individual that you'd gone out with?
I had told him, because he had asked me out before, I told him that I had started dating someone else.
Okay.
And so, he backed off. And then when I broke up, he found out, I'm assuming, and started, trying to ask me out again.
So when you told him that you were seeing this other individual, was he upset? Did he start raising his voice and curse or anything like that?
No.
What was his reaction when you said, I'm seeing somebody else?
He was very sweet and respectful and totally understood.
Did you and him ever text each other?
Yes.
How about emails? Did you exchange those?
Yes.
After you told him that you were going to see this other individual, did he send you text messages calling you, I don't know, disparaging names, bad names?
No.
But did he continue to text with you?
Yes.
How about emails? Did you and he continue to correspond through email?
Yes.
And did he ever send you any emails calling you names or accusing you of things?
Not at all. No.
So he reapproaches you again after you're done with this relationship, and you say that could be February or March of 2008.
Mm-hmm.
Is that yes?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And where do you go on this date?
We went to a place where you paint pottery, and I made a bowl.
All right. And what town was this in?
Mesa.
What time did he pick you up?
7:30, typical time probably.
And how long were you out with him?
Just a couple of hours, probably 3 hours.
And what happened after the two of you were done painting this pottery?
He took me home.
And during the time that you were with,
He made a bowl. She made a bowl on her second date. Not exactly a hot date, but
I think that he's trying to establish like what a gentleman he is, and how could he actually abuse Jodi. But the
Yeah.
fact is Jodi has text messages of his abuse. You know what I mean? And she has, I believe
Yeah, and
she
let
even
me
has
just say,
emails
you
from
might not
him.
even I just want to say that you might not even consider it that abusive. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's people that do. I think he was just taking advantage of her, but I don't think he was like head on abusing her.
I think he was mentally abusing her, stringing her along, making her, say sorry to things that were so stupid, carrying on arguments that, that she already said sorry about, and he just keeps on talking about it, and it sounds so frustrated with her. He had like
Mhm.
short-tempered with her. So it's all that stuff. But what I'm saying is like, is that is that his focus, trying to show that he's like some like great guy and he's a good said boyfriend in a sense? Or
Right.
I
And
mean,
another
what's with all
point,
this questioning?
well, because that's his strategy, is to prove that what they're about to say about Travis is not true. But I will say, and this is defending Jodi a little bit, is that if she truly was this little secret he wanted to lock up and then just to have for sex and stuff, he's not gonna show that side to anybody else, right?
Of course,
Right.
right.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah. But I don't even think, I mean, yeah, it's textbook, taking advantage of a woman for sure. But I don't even know if it's like to the degree of bad abuse. Why
I
don't you
mean,
just wait until you hear it yourself and then you could determine? Because
and
you
then
might be like, this is not so bad. I mean, he's a jerk, but I mean, he's not that bad. I mean, he really isn't. Like, I've seen worse.
well, I mean, the fact that she put if she put that license plate on and it was upside down, I
I
think,
mean,
I
it,
think
it
anything that could twist her thoughts around probably really, made her go, not say crazy, but made her like really think. Probably stressed her out too much.
if
Made her
I,
think
because
too
it's
hard.
been a while since I've listened to those. I mean, I've listened to them back in the day when the trial was going on. But I mean, if I remember
Right.
correctly, she was asking for it too. So she was just
Mm.
as bad. So I just don't think you're gonna
Okay.
think it's as bad because she's like, I love that. I want you to do that to me. And he about the things that she says were like, degrading. And she was asking
Okay.
for it. Like, and
Right.
participating in the conversations about getting really nasty together. Okay? So
Okay.
we'll see what you think. Okay.
That day, did he ever curse at all?
No.
Hit that sub
During that
button.
time, did he make any sexual advances, whether they were wanted or unwanted?
No, I felt very safe with Travis. He was, very respectful. There was never anything like that.
At any time, did he curse at you, or you see that, show any temper during that time?
No.
And at the end of the day, did you and he, again, engage in what may be customary, I don't know, touching, kissing, that sort of thing?
No, and again, it would just be an awkward hug goodnight. That's
Yeah,
that's
and
the
he
extent of
wouldn't
it.
with a Mormon,
And
another
during
Mormon.
that time, did you ever indicate to him that maybe the sparks
Listen,
weren't there for
nobody
you?
treats their side piece like their
Not
wife.
on the
Okay.
date, no.
No.
True.
And at any time after that, did you tell him that, or did you continue going out?
We went out one other time, and
Alright.
then at that point, I was trying. He was a really fun guy. I was trying to get to know him, and I didn't want to write him off too soon. So, but after the third date, I let him know that I just wanted to be friends.
The third date, when was that you went on the third date?
It would have been in March, and we went rock climbing.
And where was this place that you went rock climbing?
The Phoenix Rock Gym in Tempe.
And was this also starting at 7:30, or did this start at a different time?
I don't recall exactly, but I would assume it would have been early evening, 7.
And know about how much time you spent with him?
Again, just a couple of hours,
And again, at any time during this date, did he make any sexual advances towards you?
none.
Did he attempt to kiss you as the date was done?
No,
Did he attempt to kiss you when he first saw you?
no,
Did he attempt to kiss you not on the lips, but like the forehead or something?
no.
During this date, is that when you, after this date or during this date, that when you let him know that perhaps He's not for you?
After the date, yes, I let him.
How did you do that?
I don't remember if it was through a phone or in person, but I let him know that, I just wanted to be friends.
But it was verbal, in other
It was
words.
verbal, yes.
Okay. And is that what you said? I just want to be friends, or did you say anything else?
I don't remember exactly what I said word for word.
What was his reaction to you telling him that?
He understood, and he actually thanked me for telling him.
He actually what?
Thanked me for telling him directly, so that he knew where he stood, and he was respectful about the whole thing. So.
Did he ever tell you why he thought you and he would make a good match or anything like that, or no?
No.
So, after that, did you continue to stay in contact with him or not?
Yes, we continued on being friends, and
How did that manifest itself? How did you keep in touch with him?
we would continue to see each other at church. I started a book and film club.
A what?
A book and film club.
Okay.
So our first meeting we had at his house. He had a movie projector, and it was, a fun friendship, and yeah.
And at any time during this friendship as it went along, did he ever, berate you in any way?
No, I'm not sure what berate means. I'm sorry.
Okay. Did he at any time scream at you, that sort of thing?
No.
Where do you work at now?
I work for JP Morgan Chase.
And have you attended college?
Yes.
Where did you graduate from?
Brigham Young University.
Where?
Brigham Young, BYU.
All right. And with regard to the Mormon faith,
All the Mormons go to that
what is
college.
their belief
I was
with
gonna say
regard
that,
to sexual contact before marriage?
It's a very serious sin, and one that you could lose your good standing in church for. You could even become excommunicated for it.
What does excommunicated mean?
In the church, a member in good standing holds callings where they, do service for other ward members, other people. They attend the temple.
Okay.
Being excommunicated means that you lose your privileges to be able to do those, and you lose your member records. You're no longer a member of the church. To become a member again, you would have to repent, go through a process, be rebaptized.
These rules that you've been describing to me, do they apply differently? Or they apply differently to somebody who has joined the church later in life as opposed to somebody like you who has always been in the church?
Objection, foundation. This is expert testimony.
Overruled, you may answer if you know.
Okay. So if I understand you, do they apply differently depending on how long you've been in the church?
Right, whether or not you converted later on or not.
No, they apply the same to every person.
So, in this issue of excommunication, what is that? What is that?
Excommunication?
Yeah.
It's where you lose your, basically your names are taken off the records of the church. You're no longer a member of the church. So you can still come to church, but in order to become a member again, you have to go through a repentance process, stop doing what you're doing, repent between you and the Lord, and there's different steps that you have to go through that. And then in order to come back to the church, you need to be rebaptized to the church.
This repentance process, and again, in your knowledge, does it mean that, for example, you can engage in sexual intercourse today, go repent tomorrow, engage in sexual intercourse tomorrow, repent tomorrow, and keep doing that? Is that what we're talking about? Or is it something different than that?
No, I mean, you would have to give up that sin completely. It's something you would have to change in yourself. You can't, no, you would not be able to do that.
So, for example, if the defendant were engaged in sexual intercourse and it was outside of marriage, would she potentially face this excommunication if she were to the Mormon church?
Objection and cause for speculation in this expert testimony.
Sustained is phrased.
Ma'am, you're familiar with the process, aren't you?
Yes,
Does it apply to everybody?
it does.
And how long have you been schooled in the practices as to what leads to excommunication?
ever since, we were taught as children the things right and wrong, the commandments of God, we're taught to obey, and we know, and I was born in the church, so since I was a child, I've been taught these things.
So if an individual, for example, is a female and engages in sexual intercourse, are they subject to the same sanction, i.e. excommunication?
Yes.
So gender has nothing to do with whether or not there's going to be a punishment for this, right?
That's correct.
So it isn't, so if two people engage in this act of sexual intercourse, they're in there independently, right?
Right.
The issue of repenting, how do they repent? How does somebody repent in the Mormon church? You may have mentioned something about a bishop. Explain to me what we're talking about there.
Okay. To repent of a
She's
sin,
exhausted.
you need to take certain
It's
steps.
a lot.
Confession.
It's interesting, though.
You need to stop doing it. You need to usually sacrifice or give something up. So every Sunday, if you're in good standing, you can partake of the sacrament. And so you yourself wouldn't want to decide, like an individual can't decide exactly what steps they have to go through. It's they have to go to a bishop, which is the church, the leader of the congregation of each ward. It's a congregation. They have to go to the bishop, confess their sin. The bishop is, a volunteer, someone who's called, we believe he's called of God, and
Okay, as you can see, it's not just like regular Christianity where you can just ask for forgiveness and you're immediately forgiven of your sins. You have to
Right.
go through a huge process. You have to you're under the guidance of that bishop, and they make you wait. You can't just come back to temple. You actually might never be able to. You're always in
Right.
question, always. What I will do is I'm going to skip a little bit just because I'm hoping to get to. Hold on a second.
call, a text, or see him, or an email. He was very interested in becoming good friends, and so he was working on that, and I had a good time with him, and I was having fun, so, it wasn't anything.
Did there come a time that he asked you to go somewhere?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And where is it that he asked you to go?
He asked me to go to Cancun with him. He won a trip
All right, when you say you won a trip, who did you win the trip with?
through his work.
You know who he worked for?
I don't. Mm-mm.
So he wins this trip and he asks you to go with him. When did he ask you to go with him?
In May, sometime in May.
2008?
Yes, of 2008.
But you've told me now, or before, that you really didn't like him, there weren't any sparks there. Did you agree to go with him?
Yes.
Immediately when he asked you or not?
Well, when he first asked me, I told him I wanted to think about it. I was concerned, just because I knew he did like me a little bit more than I liked him. I was just friends. But also, he let me know that we would be staying with a family, an LDS family, and I would be sharing a room with one of their daughters, a little girl. And it was at a place where I had been to several times before. So I felt comfortable. I knew Travis, and I knew myself. I knew nothing, would happen. Plus, he told me that it was free. Everything was free. So after I
Free
thought about
trip.
it for a while, I agreed to go because it sounded like a lot of fun.
So how much time elapsed between the time that he asked you and the time that you said, yeah, I'll go with you?
Probably just a couple of days.
And generally, do you have any idea when that would have been? I know you said May, but did you refine it a little bit more or not?
Beginning of May, I don't know exactly what day.
And did you then continue having more or less contact with him, or just continue having contact as before, where he would either call you or you'd see him?
Yeah, we would see each other at church. We went on a church camp out for the singles ward. We went on a camp out.
Where did you go for this camp out?
It was up near Payson.
And did Travis go?
Yeah,
And do you know if he went with anybody or just a bunch of singles?
just a bunch of singles.
Was
We
that
drove
in
up
May?
in separate cars. Yeah.
And I've got to ask, I guess, about the sleeping arrangements. Did everybody sleep in the
Girls and guys were separated. Yeah, so girls had cabins. Guys slept outside, either in tents or there was a platform where they could.
And during that time, how long were you in Mr. Alexander's presence? In other words, that he was around you?
During the camp out?
Yeah, how long was the camp out, I guess?
That was just like a night and a day. So like a Friday night, and we hung out Saturday, drove home Saturday.
And was there ever any indication that Mr. Alexander was involved with any of the women there, chasing them around or anything like that?
No.
There ever any indication that he was saying anything inappropriate to any women there?
No.
So the time for the trip approaches, correct?
Yes.
And did you continue to have contact with him?
Yes. Up until about a week before we found him, I spoke to him.
And do you have an idea about the date that you actually, about the last time that you talked to him?
It would have been, so we found him on June 9th, the evening of June 9th, and I remember seeing him the Monday before that, which would have been the 2nd.
Okay,
June 2nd.
so a week before you saw him, and after that, did he continue to email you or not, or did he just go silent?
He just went silent.
So the trip is approaching, and you're not hearing from him. Do you do something on July 9th?
June 9th.
I'm sorry, June 9th, correct.
Yeah, so I went to our family home evening group. It was normal.
Is this the singles group again?
Yes.
Okay, and about what time did that start?
7:30.
And how long did it last?
About till 8:30.
And then what did you do?
A friend of mine had just had surgery, so I went to visit with her. In the meantime, I had tried calling and texting him because I didn't see him at church on Sunday. We were supposed to go on this trip the next day, and I hadn't heard from him, so I texted him. He didn't respond, and then he wasn't at the family home evening group, so I started to become worried, and decided after I visited my friend that I would go to his house.
Okay, and did you go to his house?
Yes, on the way to his house, I started getting really worried because I called and it went straight to voicemail. I called and had my mom on the other line just because I was scared that something might be happening to him because I knew that he had a stalker.
So, at least you had heard he had a stalker, correct?
Yes.
And so you were afraid when you went over there, and that's why you had your mom on the line.
Yeah, I had suspicions that something was going on.
So you had suspicions. So what happened, about what time do you get over there?
This would probably be right around 9:30.
All right, and explain to me what happens when you get there.
I pulled up and there was a car in the driveway. I didn't know whose car it was. There was a light on upstairs, and I went to the door and knocked on it. Nobody answered. The dog jumped up on the door and looked.
Do you know the dog's name?
Napoleon.
And what's the color of the dog?
The color?
Yeah.
White and black.
All right. Is it a bigger or smaller dog?
It's just a tiny little dog.
All right. And so this dog is there. Explain to me what the dog's doing when you're knocking on the door.
He looked really upset, and he was jumping at the door and barking.
And how long were you there trying to get into the house?
Just, a couple of minutes. I banged on the door, rang the doorbell over and over again. Nobody answered. So my mom and my sister were on the other line with me, and my sister suggested I call somebody that Travis knew to see if they had seen him around.
And who's this person that was suggested to you?
She just suggested I call a friend. So I called Michelle Lowry, a friend of Travis's, a mutual friend of ours.
All right, so you call Michelle, and you and she agree on how to proceed. What did you do?
Yeah, so she decided to call Travis's her best friend, which was her ex-boyfriend, and I ran home because I lived really close by to see if he had emailed me or Facebook messaged me.
And had he?
No, he had not.
What did you do?
I tried to send him a message. I later found out that it went to the wrong Travis, but I tried to send him a message on that.
And you went home, you did that, then what happened?
Okay, and so then at that point, Michelle and I went and met at his house again. Michelle brought her boyfriend, and she was on the other line with Travis's best friend. And so her boyfriend went and knocked on the door again, rang the doorbell. I mean, he was pounding on the door.
And when this was going on, what was the dog doing?
Barking at the door.
All right. And how long did this go on, this pounding, this banging?
A minute or two.
Were you able to see from the outside whether or not any lights were on inside?
It was the same as when I had drove up the first time. So there was a light on upstairs. That same car was in the driveway.
All right. Then what happened?
So his friend, Travis's friend on the phone, suggested that we go in through the garage and look for him in the house. And he had the garage code, so he
So
gave
the
it to
person on the phone that who was talking to him?
Michelle was talking to him.
That Michelle was talking to had the garage access code,
Yes,
and that was given to Michelle.
yes.
So what happens then?
We opened the garage, and his car and bike were there.
What kind of car?
A Prius.
Then what happened?
I'm sorry. So we went into the house
Okay.
through the garage door.
And what is the first room that you came to?
The laundry room. There was a washer and dryer right to our right,
Did any of you look at those?
and just noticed that it was a washer and dryer.
That means you're walking in straight, so to speak, right?
Right.
And then where did you go, left or right?
Left.
What happened then?
His office was, so after we turned left, his office was on the right-hand side, and the door was shut. And the friend on the other line suggested that we open the door. So we opened the door slowly. The light was out, but his laptop was on his desk. It was open, but like in a sleep mode. The little light on it was flashing.
Okay. What happened then? What did you do?
There was a bathroom on the left side, and I looked inside the bathroom and checked inside the shower to make sure no one was hiding in the shower.
And did you find anything?
No.
Where did you guys go after that?
We went straight, which led us into a family area. There's a family room area, a kitchen, and there was a vacuum cleaner right in the middle of the floor.
Did you see whether or not it was plugged in, or it was just in the middle of the floor?
It was just in the middle of the floor.
What happened then? Well, at this point, was the dog with you guys now, or?
The dog came up to us and had run back and forth. When we first walked in, it smelled really bad, and so I assumed that the dog had an accident or something. So he was, the dog was with us.
Okay. Then what happened?
Then we went up the stairs. So we, peeked our head into the other room, it was all pretty open, and no one was in the front room. So we went up the stairs, and his bedroom is
As you're going upstairs, did you notice whether or not there was any odor?
it just was throughout the whole house. I noticed it when we first walked into the house. That's when I noticed it, and then it was always there. So.
Okay, and then walking up the stairs, what happens?
So we walked up the stairs, and the way that the house is set, at the very top of the stairs to the left was his bedroom door, and it was a double door type of thing, but it was shut and it was locked. We tried to go in there, but it was locked.
Did you guys knock at that door too, or not?
Yeah, we knocked on the door.
How did you know that was his room?
From the book and film club that we had, the movie theater is just right there. So his bedroom's there, movie theater's there, and he had, when we were all there, he had shown us his room.
All right, then, so now you're at this door, it's locked, what do you guys do?
boyfriend of my friend Michelle was there, and he heard music, and we went over to the door. Well, he went over to the door where there was music coming out. It was a different bedroom in the house, and he knocked on the door, and a roommate came out.
And what happened then?
We told him that we couldn't find Travis. We were worried. He found a key to his bedroom.
Okay, that's so weird that the guy is there, right? Isn't that strange?
He doesn't smell anything either.
Right, like what kind of dirtbag are you walking around with it?
And the dog, if the dog pooped and you don't pick it up, I know it's not your dog, but you don't go and tell the owner of the dog, like, hey, your dog pooped. Can you go pick it up?
Or
I
what's
mean,
that
nothing.
smell? What's that smell? Why haven't you
Yeah.
Why haven't you come out in days? Right, because it
Right.
is a week
Yeah.
at this point.
Yeah. What is that smell? And why hasn't he come out of his room in days?
Yeah, there is an interview with that guy somewhere. I'll have to find it for you. But yeah, I mean,
Oh
it's just-
my God.
it's crazy. Yeah,
Talk about staying in your own
I-
space.
I know. Yeah, like how clueless can you be? He's got to walk around with a lot of guilt. Yeah, I mean,
You
he didn't do
think?
anything.
I
But
don't think
still.
so.
I'd walk
I don't
around
think
feel
so.
like, I mean, his body at least could have been more preserved if he had just like not been so lazy. You know what I mean? All right.
Just been a little bit more.
And he and the boyfriend went into the bedroom.
About what time was this now?
Probably around 10.
Right. Did you go into that bedroom when they went in or no?
No, Michelle and I stayed outside of the bedroom. At first they walked in and they were looking, so they were right in front of us and they were looking kind of this way. And so at first I was following their gaze through the crack of the door because I could see the room through the crack of the door. And then as soon as they said that they saw blood, that there's blood everywhere, I stopped looking. And then they went further into the room.
And did they eventually come out, or was it a short stint inside, or was it long, or were they in there a long time?
It didn't seem very long. They went in, and then the roommate ran out and said, he's dead, he's dead. And so immediately I called the police and ran downstairs and out the front door so that I could get the address of the house.
All right. After this, was there some sort of service for Mr. Alexander here in the Mesa area?
Yeah, just a few days later, there was a memorial service for
Do you
him.
remember what day of the week it was?
I don't remember exactly. It would have been a Thursday, I would assume, because this was a Monday night. So
Right.
Wednesday, Thursday.
When I asked about a memorial service, was the body there or not? At the memorial service?
No,
No? It was just a memorial service then?
yeah.
And where was this service held?
This was at the church building where we went to church every Sunday. In Mesa, it's off Guadalupe and the 202 area.
And while you were there, well, when did it start? What time?
I don't remember exactly. In the evening, 7 o'clock.
And were there a lot of people there? Just give a yes or no.
Yes, there were a lot of people.
And of all the people that were there, was there somebody by the name of Jodi Arias?
Yes,
And is the person that you knew as Jodi Arias, is she in court today?
yes.
Tell me where she is seated and what she is wearing.
She's seated over there at the end of the table, and I can't see her clearly, but she's wearing black and she has dark hair.
She's got
Is
puppy
she
dog
the
eyes.
extreme end?
Yes,
Your Honor, may the record reflect
Feel
the
bad for me.
identification of the defendant.
yes.
So you see the defendant there, and do you go up to her, or does she go up to you?
She came up to me and introduced herself to me.
What did she say?
She said, "Are you Mimi Hall?" I go by Mimi. That's my
All right.
nickname. And I said yes. And she introduced herself as Jodi Arias.
And did she say anything else?
I asked her how she was doing, and she said she was upset. And so that was about it, though.
Did at any time she say, I'm the person who killed him or anything like that?
No,
Did she ever tell you why she was there?
no.
I don't have anything else, thank you.
Cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. I want to begin, if I heard correctly, when you were
Were you listening
talking
to the cross?
to counsel for the state.
A little bit, yeah.
you advised him you were 33 years old, right?
Yes.
Okay. And if I also heard you correctly, you said you were, I believe the phrase you used was born into the church.
That's correct.
Okay. And that's the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you went to Brigham Young University.
Yes.
And that is a institution supported by that church. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Okay, a little bit of fun fact real quick about this guy.
Okay.
Wormy, we used to call him. He's actually a really nice guy. And he absolutely hated representing her. He wanted off this case. And when there was no jury in the room, he begged and begged and begged. He did not want to be in the case. And Jodi would manipulate him. I mean, he has a whole story, too, about her. That representing her, like, ruined his life. And he really did not believe.
Did he have to represent her? Like he
Yes.
couldn't bow down?
Yes, I think he was court appointed. Okay. Yes. And the judge wouldn't let him loose off of the case, and he wanted off so bad. So, yeah, just a little fun fact about that. He doesn't believe he's doing everything he can that he's required to do as an attorney to represent her. But at the same time, he couldn't stand her, didn't like her. And
What about the woman though? Why didn't she?
the woman
fill in
is a
more of
little
the shoes?
different. And you know what? When we're all done with this, there's a little short interview with her also. And there's an interview with our Jodi that you should watch. And there's an interview with him.
Okay.
But it's really interesting. I mean, their whole lives were flipped on their heads. But as far as her, I think she had some sympathy for her. But he
Why
didn't.
didn't she just take first seat then? If he really
Because-
didn't want to do it,
Because that's who was assigned from the beginning, and it would have made her look bad if the jury shows up and then all of a sudden he disappears. The judge is like, no, you need to see this through.
no, I'm
You know, 'cause
saying
that-
why not? Why couldn't he take second seat and the woman take the first seat?
Well,
Like why didn't they
I
just
don't know.
switch?
they had already been halfway through when he realized, oh my gosh, this girl is crazy. This girl's out of her mind, and she's apparently she would manipulate him. Like she turned into another person. Like what you're seeing these puppy dog eyes is not who she really is. I mean, even on the 2020 interviews, she was like, I think at one point she said something like, "Oh, no one will ever convict me." Like, I mean, she's bad news.
Yeah.
He comes on court TV
I mean-
a lot. Jodi made him famous. Yeah, made him famous. But he also ended up getting cancer that progressed and got worse. And he swears that his cancer got worse because of her. Because of the stress. No, that's
Well,
true.
listen, he literally picked. He picked this job. He picked to be a defender. So, I mean, you actually think you're going to defend only innocent people?
No, I'm not saying that.
No.
I'm just saying
No,
that.
that's what I'm saying is that you chose this job. You
True.
got stuck in it, so it is what it is.
That is true. That is true.
What I wanted to do to begin with is just talk to you a little bit about, the state asked you a little bit about the structure of the church, the repentance process, everything of that nature. I kind of want to
Oh,
talk
I
a
don't want to
little bit
hear
about
that anymore.
Our geographical background.
I'm skipping.
And usually you will have up to 3, maybe 5 wards will meet there every Sunday.
Honestly,
sorry,
I
I didn't
don't
hear
even
you.
think he can really go into much. But I'm skipping
The ward building, yeah. So
the ward stuff. All right, let me
What-
just
what
move
could he
back.
What could he actually rebuttal
and
on
it's
her?
up to them,
you
I know.
when they feel like they need to repent, to go
It's
and
all about the Mormon church. La 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 la. I'm just gonna go back to because he goes back. Oh, Juan
climbing wall
comes
that you
back
kinda
at the
gave me the-
end. I'll just go to that because usually the cross. I mean, when he redirects. Sorry.
Of this stuff.
It touches on what he just
Okay.
questioned her about. You know what I'm
the name
saying?
Jodi.
Yeah.
I think it was in Payson.
Payson?
Yeah.
You indicated that part of what he told you was that this stalker was a female, right?
Yes. Mhm.
And what had this female done that he was warning you about?
She had
Actually beyond the scope of cross.
Overruled.
She had slashed his tires several times. She had slashed he had dated someone earlier that year. She had slashed her tires. She had sent threatening emails to both Travis and his girlfriend of the time. She had followed us on the first date that we went on. She sounded dangerous. She had broken into his email accounts, his bank accounts. She would sneak into his house through the doggy door and sleep on his couch at night without him knowing that she was there. So.
And you were dating him what month of what year?
We went out.
Sorry, you went out what month of what year?
Like I said, January or February, that first time. And then later on, March-ish.
So it could have been from January to March of 2008 that these dates took place then?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
In terms of whether or not Mr. Alexander was temple-worthy, do you know whether or not he was temple-worthy?
I don't know. I knew he was in the past because he talked about going to the temple, but when we were hanging out, I didn't know whether he was or not.
And in terms of whether or not he was a priesthood holder, you assume that he was, but you don't really know, right?
Yeah, actually, I'd like to go back. I think he had told, I remember just now when you asked me that I think he had told me that he wasn't worthy to go to the temple.
Was or was not?
Was not.
A what?
Worthy to go to the temple. But as far as the priesthood holder...
Hold on.
Okay.
The microphones are not so good here.
Okay.
Since was he or was he not temple worthy? You're going to tell us about that, and then the priesthood holder. Why don't you tell us about those?
So, I actually remember him talking about, he used to work in the temple, and then I remembered him telling me a story that he was no longer worthy to go to the temple. He didn't tell me why. I didn't ask why. That's private.
He's not temple worthy then.
So yeah. So during that time, I don't think he was temple worthy. And then priesthood holder, I assumed that he was at that time, but I don't know.
All right. And you were talking about the gradation, or what is the most serious of all sins, and murder's at the top is one of them, right?
Yeah.
Along with denying the Holy Ghost, right?
Right.
And then underneath that, you listed some others. What were those?
Sexual immorality, so that would be fornication, adultery.
Well, just so that we're getting this clear, adultery, what does that refer to?
When a husband and wife, if you have a marriage, you have a husband and wife.
We know this.
One of them sleeps with or has a sexual relationship with someone outside of their marriage.
All right. How is that different from fornication?
Fornication, as far as I understand, is with a single person. So somebody who's not married and has a sexual relationship with someone else who is not married.
So it's the same thing, only it's sort of a, if you will, a
one's married,
classification?
One's right.
And in terms of the sinfulness of the person, does it matter that the person who is engaging in fornication is a woman? In other words, is it lesser for a woman to engage in fornication than it is for a guy?
No.
So it's the same sort of sin, right?
Yes.
Let me ask you the situation you were asked about reporting and that sort of thing. What if a person is engaging in fornication, whether they be, let's just say it's female, and that person does not self-report? Is that in and itself a sin?
Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
How about if a person is having sex with somebody and they're single?
Mm-hmm.
That's a yes, correct?
Yes.
And this person continually has sex, but does not self-report, doesn't go to the bishop and say, I'm having sex and I'm not married. Is that also a sin, the failure to report?
It's
Yes, it is.
It's just not repenting of that sin.
Right.
You're continuing on with the sin. Yeah. So
In this gradation of sins that we've talked about, the murder and the denial of the Holy Ghost, and then you told us where fornication and adultery came in. How about lying? Is that a sin?
Objection to be honest over not argumentative.
overall, it's a sin.
that a sin?
It's a sin to lie.
And that's part of this list that you were talking to the defense attorney about?
Yeah.
In terms of this issue involving whether or not if somebody's being hurt and reporting it, is the only recourse if somebody's being hurt to report it to the bishop, or is there a different recourse? Can a person report it to somebody else? For example, law enforcement.
You can tell anybody you want to what your sin. Yes, but in order to become clean again, and you have to tell your bishop. You have to confess the sin.
And this trip to Cancun that you talked to the defense attorney about, you at first told him you didn't want to go, right?
I told him that I wanted to think about it. Told him that I would go. Then a couple of weeks beforehand, I told him he should take someone else.
A couple of weeks beforehand, you told him he should take somebody else a couple of weeks before the trip, right?
Correct.
And did he agree to take somebody else?
He did not. There wasn't anyone else he wanted to take.
And these conversations took place what month and what year?
May 2008.
I don't have anything else. Thank you.
Does any member of the jury have a question for this witness?
Okay, just so you know, and then we'll wrap it up, that in Arizona, at the end of every witness, the jury is allowed to ask questions, and I absolutely love that. I love that.
Just about to say that.
It
Why
is
can't
the
we implement that everywhere? Because as a juror, I definitely would have questions.
It is the coolest thing. It really
Yeah.
is. And then it's also gives you a window into what the jury is thinking about each witness. You know what I mean? Okay,
Right.
all right. That's why I see why they're asking that question. So it is so interesting. And I wish that every state did that. But, okay,
Oh,
so they've got
that is
questions for her.
fabulous.
It really is.
I see no hands. Thank you. You may step down. Counsel, please approach.
No hands. Honestly. The more
Okay,
people
but
they
in the
ask.
future, there is going to be
Questions.
questions, and they are so helpful. So yeah, Mimi Hall. What did you think of Mimi Hall? I mean, I feel so bad for her that she had to find him.
Why? Oh,
That she had to go through that and find him. And but did you hear that she testified that Travis told her that he had a stalker, and that stalker was Jodi, and that she was
a girl.
right.
He told her that it was a girl.
I think she knew. No, she knew Jodi was the stalker, though. She said it at another point. Maybe I skipped over that, but I know that
Okay.
there was a point where she does say that it's Jodi. So So Travis told Mimi that Jodi was his stalker, and that she had slashed his tires, his ex-girlfriend's tires. And that she was even behind them and following them when they were on their date together, him and Mimi. So
But
by
what
the time,
ex-girlfriend of his?
okay,
I don't
so
remember him
she's
dating anybody.
yeah, no, she's gonna testify. I want to say her name's Lisa, but I'll have her testimony next time. I'm actually gonna do her testimony, and hers is interesting too. She's another sweet thing. But yeah, so what did you think of her? Mimi.
I mean, yeah, I don't know what is there to say. I mean, she just seems like a sweet lady. I think that she was very truthful to him. I find her very credible.
Yeah.
I'm glad that she cared enough to look for him. But
Yeah.
then again, they were supposed to leave on the trip the next day, so she probably wanted to make sure that everything was fine.
And I
But,
definitely agree that he
yeah.
could have been a totally different person with these, prospects for wives. Of course, he's not going to show
absolutely.
that side. However,
Absolutely.
it was important to establish, because it is possible, if he really wasn't abusive to Jodi, to the degree that some people think, it's possible that he really is just a nice guy, who just got wrapped up in Jodi and turned into another person. Boys, men, they can just get put under a spell by women, and
And vice versa.
And vice versa.
You know?
But I think you're going to
Right.
find that Jodi is not exactly innocent here when it comes to what the going ons were between them through text and emails and their little escapades they were having. She was just as much a participant as he was, and you will hear
Yeah.
that. So
Well, I do believe that she loved him, though. I think that's what I'm thinking, is that she's willing to do anything for him, or you know, that she loved him.
I don't think she loved him, because I believe that somebody who is that obsessed, and I think it's been it's going to be established that she's a stalker, that is not love at all. So
So she's infatuated with him. She's infatuated
Yes.
with him. Then, if that's the better word for you.
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
I think her actions was her way of showing love. You know what I mean? Like, maybe that's just the way she shows it.
Yeah.
And that's how, so not everybody
And how
knows how
hard
to
it
love
must
them.
be, or it was, how hard it was for his family to sit through this trial. I mean, there is stuff coming up that you're just not going to believe that has to happen in that courtroom in front of them. And it's just really, really sad. It really is.
Right. Well, like I said, nobody's going to treat their side piece like they treat their wife. So
Right.
he could be totally different person
Right.
towards her.
Agree. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So
So
not for nothing. Also, just the way that the way of the repentance of if they had fornication, or what's that when you cheat on marriages? What was the word they used? Fornication and
infidelity.
was that the word he used? Anyway, the penance that they have to go through is so extreme that I could totally understand why he wanted to keep. He did not want to say anything, because, I mean, he broke that rule like 20 plus times. I don't even know.
I know.
And it was more than just fornication, apparently,
Yeah.
what they did. So he was not bringing her to anywhere where she can say, oh yeah, we've had sex.
Yeah.
So he's not going to bring her to that vacation. There's no way.
Right.
You're going to keep
No
her
way.
separate.
Absolutely separate. Nobody could see her. And I think it just got worse and worse about the separation. You know what I mean? Because he was trying to, he was at a point in his life, I think he was 30 or close to 30, maybe 31, I don't know. And he was about ready to look for a wife and wanted to start, turning his life around, being a proper Mormon, and getting that wife and starting kids and all that. And he was just like on his way out from this other thing he was doing with Jodi. Okay, real quick. I wanted to give you an update. An update on Brian Koberger. I don't know if you. I don't know if you heard, but let me go through it real quick. I put something up about it today. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know why that's doing that. Why I can't. Okay, yeah, Brian Koberger. So there's an update on him. A couple things. So he was in court, and his attorneys were arguing, number one, that he has autism, and they want to use that as part of their defense, so that they could maybe squash the death penalty. The second thing is that they did that it was mentioned in court today that the sheath of that knife has DNA that matches Brian Koberger on it. Okay, and then the third thing, and let me pull it up real quick. He took a selfie of himself. Did you know about this?
I did. And another thing is that they're trying to get that that knife sheath expunged, because they're trying to say somebody planted it there.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah. Of course they're going to say
God.
that. Of course they are.
Yeah.
Right? Of course they're going to say that. Let me get
like,
that picture for you. Where is it? I should have had
Like
it ready.
Somebody planted it there. I mean, like, oh God.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it really is. But I mean, they're trying. And I feel like, who doesn't know about this case? It hurts everybody out there. Everybody has a niece or a nephew, college age, or, grandchild, whatever. I just feel like, and being just the multiple deaths like that, how does everybody, I don't know how they even found jurors that are not biased.
I don't know. But that trial starts August 11th. And by the way, this picture This picture is a little blurry. I apologize, but again, it's a selfie from a cell phone, but here it is. So he took this picture of himself with a smile on his face and the thumbs up at like 10:30 the same morning, just a couple hours after those murders. And they're trying to get it thrown out, but I don't think it's going to get thrown out. I think they're going to be able to use it. I mean, I don't know how this guy could ever get off from this. Well,
if the autism sticks, he's not going to get death penalty.
No, he won't. But
yeah,
there's a lot of people with high functioning autism that know right from wrong. So I don't know if it'll fly.
That's true too.
So if they bring in somebody that can, explain that away and be like, yeah, well,
right.
Half the people are on the spectrum in the country. Right?
Everybody's on a spectrum, that to a certain degree.
Right, absolutely. Like,
Yeah.
I have certain little things that I don't like that could be considered on the spectrum, right? So,
yeah. Me too.
Yeah. We all
need more
do.
than little. Yeah.
We all do. In fact, I was just saying the other day to somebody, and I won't get into context because it's personal, but I was saying to somebody the other day that I believe that there really is only one true psychiatric diagnosis in the world, and I think it's anxiety. I think there is nothing else. I think everything stems from anxiety. So, for an example, there's people that walk around and go, oh, I'm sorry, that's just my OCD, or I have OCD, or somebody gets diagnosed with OCD. All OCD is an anxiety that has taken over your life to the point where it's interfered with daily life. And at that point, it's extreme, and then it's called OCD. The fact is what it is it's just anxiety. Because, people who touch a doorknob 10 times, or people who have intrusive thoughts, right? That is somebody who has anxiety that is spinning in their mind, and it's taking over their thoughts, and then it becomes OCD. So I don't even actually believe in OCD anymore. I believe that it's extreme, general anxiety disorder or severe case of anxiety disorder.
I just think it's a category under the big heading of anxiety. But you could say that OCD, or I have ADD, or I have, and then there's definitely different degrees of OCD.
Yeah, and autism is a whole other subject. That is a little complicated for me. But in terms of I don't know, OCD, I don't know, depression comes from having anxiety. So there's people that walk around and say, oh, I have clinical depression. Well, you don't really know for sure if it's depression. It's more of a secondary thing. It can be from anxiety. Somebody who is overwhelmed with negative thoughts, will get tuckered out from that and tired of it. And then they're down in the dumps, and then they call it depression. Yeah. So, I don't know. But.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think it's true. It definitely stems from anxiety. But when you start, giving those little names, it's just classifying to what part of your anxiety.
Yeah. There's too much.
That's a good point, though.
There is too much labeling in this world.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. They have a name to call you for any little thing. You know what I mean? Oh, you have this. And I'm honestly really sick and tired of it. We need to go back to just, if we're talking about kids, we need to go back to parenting. If we're talking about adults, we need to go back to self-care and love in your life, surrounding yourself with good, loving people.
What's the subcategories for parenting?
I never even said the word subcategory. What are you talking about?
Well, you said that everybody labels things so much. And you're
autism, Asperger's, OCD, anorexia, bulimia, I think stems from anxiety.
Right, but you have to give it a name because not all anxiety is the same.
No, we don't have to give it a name.
You can't just say, you don't have to. No, because that doesn't make any sense. If I have anxiety, so now I'm supposed to be considered, I'm bulimic, but I'm 200 pounds. I'm not, but I'm heading,
No.
But my heading's under anxiety, but I really have OCD. You have to give
No.
you have to be more specific on what we're talking about.
You could say I'm having eating issues because of my anxiety. You could say it like that.
What kind of eating issues? It's either you're eating or you're not eating. So there's a difference between bulimia and anorexia. One of them eats
Right.
and then throws it up. The other one doesn't eat it
Yeah.
at all. So
Yeah.
it's just specifying what you got.
Right. I just don't like all the different names. I just don't
Yeah,
like
you're
all the
done.
names and labels. And I think kids are always walking around. In today's day and age, I'm like, I feel like every kid could tell you something they have. And I'm like, wow. Like, how
Yeah.
about you just need to grow up, go through some adolescence, deal with puberty. Yes, there are breakups. There are times that you're bored and there's nothing to do, and then you get down in the dumps. We got to stop naming these kids. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just
yeah.
done with
Well,
that.
we don't. They name themselves.
Right.
They're the ones who come up with the names.
And you know what? I'll find the name of the documentary, but my family and we had watched a documentary. I got to find the name of it for you. About this guy that was diagnosed with bipolar depression when he was like, I don't know, 18 years old. And they put him on like
Okay.
heavy doses of, I don't know if it was like, I think Zoloft or Prozac, one
Okay.
of those two. So he's
Well,
on
those
one.
are not heavy. Those aren't really heavy.
Well, maybe it was
drugs.
lithium. Well, maybe it was lithium.
Yeah.
That's not the point. The point is
Okay.
he was on a medication for a very long time. And then finally, when he turned like in his 40s, he said, I don't feel good ever. I feel weird on this. I've been always feeling weird on this medication. And then one day he just said, I'm going to wean off it and I'm just going to stop. And he found that he felt better. And the point I'm making is that, especially with teenagers, parents are real quick to be like, oh my gosh, what's wrong? Make them feel better. Give them a diagnosis. Write out a script for a medication. And then next thing you know, they're on it. And then they're on it for like 15 years, 20 years, right? And you didn't even give them a chance because, like, I think adolescence and puberty plays a huge role. And I think that late teens, early 20s, dealing with the pressures of life and will I find a husband or a wife, or will I be able to find a good job that's going to make a lot of money? All that plays a role in probably what that guy was feeling. And that's all it was. And it turned out that medication had really messed him up. And when he got off it, he was like, I was totally fine actually all along.
If anything, it didn't start at 18. I think he just finally got diagnosed at 18. But I think that, puberty, middle school is like the worst time, and then high school is not any better. So you learn a lot during that time period in your life in the sense of social. And if you can't get through those years socially, it's going to be hard as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
So they're very testing times. And I do agree that a lot of people jump to medication because, one, it's available, and two, they were told it's going to make it better, and three, parents want to make it better, right? So it's understandable why I do agree. I never was a believer in doing it, especially at that young age. I don't believe in taking like an antidepressant unless you absolutely have to. Like there's certain degrees, or until or under like heavy supervision, and only for a couple of months, or just to get to it. But I think it's great. Like Zoloft is great to be used alongside going for counseling. So if somebody was on Zoloft, like 5 milligrams, very low dose, it was just enough to take the edge off, but you were constantly going to counseling to help you get through this depression, I'm all for it. That makes sense because that's supposed to help you guide. And after, a year or two of your, seeing a counselor every week, or when you feel a little bit better, that's when you start to wean it off. But I don't think it's like, here's a pill, let's move on. You know what I mean? Like I think you need counseling. You need to talk it out. You need to walk through it.
I kind of I have mixed feelings about counselors too. And I'm only speaking regarding teenagers, but I find that some teenagers, they'll want therapy simply because they just want a friend. They're strangers, and I've
That's
seen.
okay. That's
No.
okay.
Yeah, but $175 a pop for a friend. You can go down the street and talk to your neighbor. My
Well,
point is,
that's bad insurance.
right? No, no. Well, I mean, look, it costs a lot even with insurance nowadays. But
It's like $30, whatever whatever your copay is.
these therapists nowadays, they don't even tell you anything. They just sit there. How do you feel? What are you going to do about it? What do you feel about it?
Yeah.
Parents can ask these questions. You don't need $175 to go send your kid to
Listen,
somebody who's
some
just
parents parents don't know how to say the right things. I would, because I'm definitely that type of person. Be like, what's your problem? What's wrong with you? Like, that's what I would be saying. You know what I mean? Like, so it's you need professional help. They know how to say things the correct way. They know how to phrase things and make you want to say words. I mean, let's put it this way. I know when I have a kid that comes into my dental chair and the mom comes over and she's like, "Don't worry, honey, it's not gonna hurt." I'm like, "What are you why are you saying that? Like, why are you even saying that word hurt? You're so stupid." You know what I mean? But she doesn't know. She doesn't know. She just thinks that she's helping her kid by saying that, "Don't worry, honey, it's gonna be okay. Nothing's gonna hurt." Like, that's the worst thing you could say to somebody who is a little apprehensive in a dental chair, you know? So it goes the same way for their profession.
Yeah, but what is that profession? It can't even be fact-checked, that profession. Do you know what I'm saying? They can...
Oh, therapy?
Therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists, they don't even... I don't even understand how they get degrees. I really don't. I mean, they can get away with faking it, and nobody would know if they were right or wrong. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
they can't... I can't.
That's why you gotta do your research.
No, I'm saying no, I don't
You're
think
saying in
there's,
general.
I think in general, all around, it isn't, hey, I think it's an easy profession because you can just sit there all day long and be like, how does that make you feel? And what do you think would be the right decision to make? And then everything. And then the person leaves and goes, they're a really good therapist. What did they do? They didn't do squat. They sat there and they barely said a word. And then they got their little DSM book. It's called the DSM. And it's got the diagnosis codes. And they flip through the pages. And they're like, oh, there it is. That's what you've got. And then they write it down. And then they send you on your way. It's the most speculative profession. You know what I'm saying? You can get away with saying, well, this is what I think your child has, or you have, whatever, adult or children. This is what I think you have. And you're supposed to just take their word for it.
Well, I mean, you have to do your own due diligence, and do your own due diligence, finding out where did they go to school. I mean, most therapists have to have their masters, and a lot of them have to have their doctors to be in certain categories. So they go through a lot of schooling.
They go to a lot of schooling so that they can take a pen and write on a script pad all the pharmaceuticals available to them, and they look, which one, what do I give for this? What do I give it? Boom. It's so easy. And we put them on pedestals. I mean, it's not the same as a heart surgeon who is like opening up your body and like, putting a stent in.
Because
it's different.
That's a concrete thing. Those are totally two separate. The brain or actual something physical.
It's very speculative. I mean, it's not like you can
agree.
open a brain and say, yep, they've got bipolar disorder. You can't do that.
No,
so I
just think
suck. I just think I think there's a lot of mistakes in psychiatry. I think there is a lot of over-diagnosing in psychology and psychiatry. And I think there's a whole lot of prescribing of medication for people who don't
that's
need
across the board everywhere.
Especially though. Yes. Yeah. Across the board, I agree with you. Doctors are constantly writing up scripts, but especially because that's all they have to do. And psychiatrists, they don't give therapy. You go to them for 20 minutes and you sit down and you say, this is how I've been feeling, doc. I'm sad all the time. I'm this and that. They see you for 20 minutes. Then they look in their book at all their drugs and they're like, all right, we're going to start you on a low dose of this. They write it out, hand it to you. And then you don't see them for like 3 months. It's not like they give you therapy. Like, I have more respect for psychologists than I probably do psychiatrists. But I don't even like psychologists either, because I just think that that's how they make their money, by telling you that something's wrong with you. And it's not necessarily true. You know what I mean?
You don't believe in marriage counseling either?
That's a really good question. No, I don't.
So how does a husband and wife work through a problem or an issue if they can't talk it within themselves, like, or to each other? Like, they're obviously cannot communicate.
Okay. I don't think a marriage counselor, I think couples can work things out together and work through things and actually get into a healing process through their marriage, regardless if they had a therapist or not. I don't think the therapist makes a difference in that.
I think
people want you to think.
I think the therapist would make a difference for couples if they're a couple who don't allow each other to talk. You know what I mean? Like, they constantly interrupt each other. They need that third person to allow them to see their own faults, or to see or allow that other person to explain their feelings. I don't think, I mean, listen, I don't believe in marriage counseling myself, in the sense, like, I would probably never go to one, because I think that there's certain things that I might feel about my husband I just don't think he should know about, because it'll do nothing but make him feel bad. And why would I do that? So it's either, if I really don't like it, I either divorce him, or I let it go and we move on. Right.
I think all you need is common sense. You need common sense.
Right. But some people don't have it. You know,
okay, so what you're saying is some people need a marriage counselor to sit there and prevent them from interrupting each other and all that, and they need an 8-year degree to do that?
Well, if you want a good marriage counselor.
How about call up your best friend? Let's say I'm having a problem with my marriage. Lynn, come on over here and sit here and referee
my side. That's what
no.
You're just gonna.
All right, forget that then. I'm going to call somebody that's an acquaintance to both of us and say, come over and referee our argument. Why do I have to pay?
Knowing my personal life, who are they? They're going to
All right. Ask a friend of a friend.
Yeah, so somebody else who could gossip about my personal life.
Okay,
there's a reason why people go. But I understand what you're saying. I do agree. Listen, I hear you. There's definitely ways of being able to vent or fix your issues, but some people just need it.
Some people need it, I guess. I don't know, but not for $100 and $150 a pop. And I don't need that. You know what? Maybe you shouldn't be married. If you're going to blow $150 once a week, maybe you shouldn't be married to that person. And there's your answer. Go get a divorce, which I don't, God. I'm not pro-divorce, because I think that you need to try to work it out. But I don't think you need to pay $150. I don't think you need $150.
Some people might feel like listen, I said to my husband, it's either we get this bed that costs a gajillion dollars, or we end up getting a divorce, because he was constantly sleeping on the couch because the couch made his back feel better, which was true. It does. But I was like, listen, we either get this bed or we're going to end up being in divorce soon. So we got the bed.
You know what? If you need a therapist and you need to blow all your money, which is only going to make your marriage worse, because then you're going to have no money, right? Then I don't know. Maybe it'll make people think twice about getting married so quickly, because people get married way too quick. They really do. They're just so quick to get married, and people are like, it's like with babies. I'll just go ahead and get an abortion. It's okay. I'll just go ahead and have sex, and then I'll go get an abortion, which is crazy that people use it that way. Anyway.
Yes, they are.
So that, if anybody is still with us, we are sorry. Yes. I'll cut it off for the live video. I'll make sure I cut off this section, or I'll move it to a different category, because it was totally off topic. But
it'd be like off topic. Off topic rant.
Well, just so anybody knows, when the video ends and it's no longer a live video, I go and trim off the intro, and I go and I can trim off spots. So, but right now we're live. So I don't know, is anybody with us right now? Everybody probably signed off.
Everybody's like, oh God, they're talking about counselors. Gotta go.
I know, right? Let me see.
All right.
All right.
Thumbs up.
Okay. No, hearts.
It's not gonna go. It's not gonna go. I don't know.
Hearts. Thanks for joining us. And anybody who hung in there, there's a couple of people still on here. Thanks for hanging out with us. And we are back on, what's today? Tuesday night. So Tuesday night,
yeah.
we will be back on. I can't wait to I can't wait to show you the other girlfriend's testimony. And then I can't wait to get to Jodi herself.
Right.
I don't even know if you're going to, is it worth it to watch the girlfriend? The other girl? Yeah, I think we should watch the girlfriend, right? And then there's this one lady that is on her side that is like a psychologist. Ironically, she gets up and man, does he rip her one. He totally he demolishes this woman like you've never seen. I'm like,
okay. So
yeah.
we'll watch that one.
Well, we'll wait for that.
All right.
Yeah. Okay.
Very good.
Thank you so much, guys. Have a great night.
Yes.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Bye.
Love you.
Love you.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the hosts and guests. All individuals mentioned are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law.